Welcome to Module 1, Unit 3 of Chromafor training course. The title of this module is Managing Basic Technical and Environmental Concepts Toward a Circular Human Resource Management Model. And in this lesson we are going to discuss about assessment of circularity. Now let's see together which are the topics of this lesson. We will analyze some models related to circular economy approach for businesses. Model 1, which is Joanna Kamako-Otero model, which is based on Macallan Arthur and Victoria ICT Swedish. Model 2, which is about circularity index formulation, and model 3, which is a Screen Lab model, where Screen is for synergic circular economy across European regions. So these are three models that will be useful for companies to move from linear to circular economy and to assess the way in which they are following circular economy solutions and methods. Let's start with the first model, circularity assessment. For one company, it is important, first of all, to identify the principles that they want to follow in order to organize in more sustainable way the production process. So principles are quite a lot: futures-based orientation, collaboration, maximize value, system thinking, closing the material loops, resilient systems, and so on. These are the main criteria that company has to keep in mind in order to transform the production process and to change their business model. Of course, then, after the identification of these criteria, it's important to answer to some questions about the current state of the business process in order to understand the way in which the production process is in line with the environmental goals. That is why this model provides an assessment scoreboard that is developed after the company has answered to these questions about the characteristic of the production process. Which are the criteria more in detail that a company has to keep in mind when they want to transfer and to test which are the environmental sustainability of their production process? So you can see these criteria in the slide. For example, the way in which they use materials, the way in which they recycle, they reuse, they share, they make energy consumptions, and so on. You can see all the criteria that are quite a lot in this slide. So the companies have to, based on this criteria, have to develop an assessment. So they have to provide some answer to the way in which they use, for example, energy, material flows, and so on. And so they will have some score. Based on this score, the business process and also the business model can be changed to be more sustainable. Now let's see together the second model, the circularity index formulation. This is another method which is more analytics compared to the previous one, and is based on some specific indexes that will give information about the characteristics of the production process and their impact on the environment. One of the indexes which is used commonly is energy circulation index. Then we have also material circularity formulation and also water circularity index and social circularity index. And then, last, life cycle economic value. For more details about these indexes, you can have a look to the website of Chromafor, www.chromafor.eu. Now, let's see the third model, which is called Screen Lab model. From this slide, you can see that there are some drivers and criteria that the company has to analyze in order to understand in which step of the change the production process is. So let's see together the drivers. The driver is production, so it's important to analyze the way in which production process is developed inside the company. Then the consumption, which is the way in which the company consumes some input and transform some input and the other material flows. Then there is disposal, the way in which waste is treated inside the company. And then there is the climate, which is the effects of the production process on the environment and so on climate. And then also employment. So we have to keep in mind that also employment is a driver to reach sustainability. Of course, there are also some criteria to keep in mind in order to assess the way in which the business process is organized, which is circular design, secondary raw material use, reuse, remanufacture, refurbishment and repair, waste reduction, industrial symbiosis, energy balance, reduction of emissions, net balance of jobs. So the company will have a kind of matrix with drivers and criteria which are useful to understand which is the degree of circular economy solutions implementations, and so the work that is needed to develop in order to reach a circular economy business model. So, for additional didactic material, you can have a look to the website www.chromafor.eu. This is the end of this Module 1 and of Unit 3. Thank you for your attention.